Alright, what's up guys? In today's video, we're doing something I've been waiting to do for a while now. I'm really pumped up about this. Everything just kind of fell into place in the past couple weeks here. So pretty much, I'm getting ready to overhaul the 350 from the 240. And by overhaul, I'm not really going to be rebuilding anything. We're kind of doing a lot of upgrades. So we got a new oil pan to go in. If you guys remember, the pickup was fucked up, but I have the right pickup. I installed it. I ordered the wrong oil pan gasket. It just came in, so that's the first thing we're gonna do. Then we're gonna tear the motor down. Heads, intake, all that's coming off. The valve train, like the rockers and everything are coming out, of course, because they're part of the heads. Cam and stuff staying in, the bottom end staying together. We're gonna clean it up. I have a new set of blueprint aluminum heads to go on. They're new to me, I should say, but and a new Edelbrock intake that's also a different bolt pattern, which will be 10 times easier than the original small block bolt pattern. So we're gonna get started on this thing right now. Alright guys, so here is the bottom end of my small block all opened up. I cleaned up the gasket surface already. It's a rubber gasket, so it doesn't really leave anything behind. There's a little bit of RTV from the previous gasket. I also do the rear main seal. The last time I had it on the lift, torqued that down, that's good. Installed the new pickup. It's just a press fit and then one bolt that holds the pickup pump body or the oil pump body together. So that's secured. I measured the height for this to make sure that it'll work with the oil pan with the proper pickup clearance, and we're ready to install the gasket, which is really simple. I'm going to show you guys right now. Now, this gasket came with these things. I'm going to guess they're like some form of alignment pin, but I cannot use them. Well, I can use them on the front because the front is a slightly bigger bolt, which is what this is for. But I can't use it on the back because the back has studs on my motor instead of bolt holes, and I'm not going to pull the studs. But I'm going to put these in the front because they look fucking cool. I'm going to try them out and see what they do. I'm about it. Alright, so here's our nice Felpro gasket, all clean, fresh out of the box. You want to make sure you work in as clean an environment as possible, especially when the bottom end's opened up. I'm not really one to talk because there's like grease and grime all over my starter and my oil filter, but it's stuck pretty well, but you should be clean. Also clean the surface really well and buy a nice gasket. You do not want to do this twice. This is not that easy of a job in terms of like doing this in the car. You're going to have to pull the motor. So I mean, it's easy to install this, but if you buy a cheap one and it goes wrong, you're going to really wish you spent a little bit of extra money and bought a nice one. So this right here clearly just slips right over everything. Clearly, you're going to want to make sure your oil pan's clean. So I cleaned the hell out of this one a little bit ago because I actually found stuff in it. And just like that, the oil pan's on. And now you have to make sure to follow the manufacturer's torque on this, because if this isn't torqued evenly, you can actually end up with a leak because it's not pulling pressure evenly on all the corners. So make sure to follow the manufacturer's recommendations on this and torque it down correctly, because if not, you're going to be in a world of hurt. And you're going to have to do this all over again. Alright guys, so as you can see, we got the gasket evenly compressed. It's not like shooting out anywhere or folded under. Right here I thought was folded under, but the gasket actually has like a little edge that comes up right there. And I also installed these spreader bars that I had from my oil pan. This is supposed to help keep it even, so hopefully you have even less problems with this being uneven and leaking. So we're going to flip this over and start tearing apart the top end. Alright guys, so pretty much the whole entire top end of this motor, like I said, has to come apart. So I'm going to start with the valve covers, and what I do is, personally, I pull all of the rockers and the push rods out in order, make sure they stay in order, and put all the push rods in an organizer. I just drill holes in a piece of wood. That way, I know where they came out of, because they tend to, or you know, it's said that they all wear together. Like the lifters wear to the push rod and the push rod wears to the rocker. So I just do my best to keep them in order. It's just something I do personally, but alright guys, so let me explain to you why I hate this intake bolt pattern. So basically on most plenums, the runners are gonna pretty much take up this space. And this is an exhaust crossover. I don't use it, but it is there on the manifold. Now, you can literally only get to these with this little special wrench, and even then it's barely. So you're literally like over here, like this side's actually worse. You'll be doing like a quarter turn out the whole entire way, and it's a pain in the ass. The new intake I have is an air gap. So this actually has a gap between the plenum and here, so it's a little bit easier, but you still can't really get a torque wrench in there, which is why I got the Vortec manifold, which you guys will see later. Alright guys, so we got the intake off, and one of the things I always check when I get the intake off is to make sure my gaskets were all sealing, and they were, which is neat. Now you always want to make sure to try and get these gaskets off in one piece. Obviously these rip, just a little bit more cleanup. These heads are not going back on this motor. Alright guys, so the motor's all apart right now, and ready to start cleaning everything up. So once again, I take this chance before I clean it to look at the head gasket, make sure everything was good. These are actually the same exact head gaskets I plan on using on the aluminum heads. They're Chevy Performance 0.028 compressed thickness, which gives me the compression that I need. I don't really use steel shims because this block, I don't know if it's perfect or not, but as you can see from the markings, everything was pretty sealed up. And another great chance here, take a peek at your bores. You can still see some of the cross hatching in there. This one has pitting in it, if you notice, in the liner. This has actually been like this because this had rust in it, and I just cleaned it up and it actually works great. Like I said, just a great time to look over all that. Alright guys, so now that we have the heads off, you can see all the stuff I was talking about before. All this has to come off. Started over here, you can see, but this will look completely clean when you're done, like bare metal like that. So we're gonna start doing that. I'm gonna cover this up. You don't really want stuff in your lifters and whatnot. A little bit is probably gonna get in the bores. You can vacuum that out and blow that out later. Alright guys, so if you look up here, you can see up here most of the gasket material is gone. There's a little bit of light scratching. That's because I use these pads to scuff up the remaining material after I went through with the scraper. I didn't do it all because right now my only goal was to get the top sealed off so that way I can work on this section and blow this out and vacuum it out and all that without getting any more dirt in the valley than I have to. Alright guys, so we got the block all cleaned up underneath. Still gonna clean up some more after this comes off, but we really had to clean it up so the tape will stick. The oil pan is mostly taped off. I'm gonna finish that after I wire wheel everything. That's pretty much it. So I'm gonna let her rip on the little cup wheel here and try and clean it up and then spray it down and hopefully get the paint. Alright guys, so we did go over a little bit in a couple spots. That's no problem, we'll retape that. Most of the paint's busted off. A couple spots I'm gonna hit up with the little hand brush, like these freeze plugs. They literally just fall right out because they're like brass. So the paint probably never really stuck very well. Most of the paint, like back here, this came completely off, which was cool. This is like the actual bare aluminum or iron, which is cool and all. But personally, I didn't really care if it stayed. Like I'm not gonna go down and wire roll all that down. Like that stuff stuck. This stuff had a lot of oil on it because of the huge oil leak I had back here, and that caused it to really fuck up the paint. I'm gonna clean this up with some brake cleaner to get the block actually, you know, free of oil and stuff, which is gonna be a process as well. And then we're gonna finish taping it up some more, blow it all off, get it clean, and start painting. A little bit of loose paint here and there I knocked off. Added a little bit of extra tape to a couple spots that had got messed up by the wire wheel, but overall we're pretty good and we're ready to paint it. So I'm gonna try and give this VHT stuff a go. Alright, so the first coat's on. It's pretty much a really light coat. They didn't do like a wet but medium coat and don't really go too hard with it yet. So pretty much that's what I'm doing, just a little bit glossy, but we're not fully covering everything. Alright guys, so we got 4 coats on it. Came out pretty good. This is probably gonna end up getting replaced. I just painted it instead of taping it off. I'm either gonna have it powder coated or probably just get it powder coated like black, screw it back on, call that a day. You can see there's a little run right there. So it didn't come out 100% perfect, but 100 times better than it was, that's for sure. Alright guys, so the motor is all dried up now. It's the next day. Stuff dried pretty damn good. It's actually pretty hard. I picked at a couple spots that weren't important and it stayed on there, so that looks good. I pulled out my new heads. These are Blueprint engine heads and these were picked up used. So I'm going to go over these heads real quick. Pretty much just make sure that nothing is destroyed. So first thing, like I said, these are actually aluminum, as you can tell clearly, and they're a lot lighter than an iron head. Cast iron heads are like 40-50 pounds. This should be around half that, at about 20 something a head. They're only $500, and these are pretty budget heads to start with, but this will help us cool a little bit better and shave about 40 pounds off the front end, which is a hell of a weight savings, considering I'm also going to be making more power. So $500 is really unbeatable for what I'm getting here. Alright guys, so we finally got the heads about to go on. I just went through with the air hose, blew out all the leftover dirt, especially around the ring. You're going to want to use ARP lube in all the holes that don't go in the water jacket. And then this Permatex thread sealant and all the ones that do, so you don't get any coolant leaks. And I like to use this copper gasket spray just because the heads and the block have not been machined, so it helps them stick and takes out any imperfections. So we're going to clean this up one last time, get all the thread sealant and stuff in here, and drop the heads on. Alright, so we got the lube in there, sealant. All these top halves are all coolant jackets, so you want to do that. And just use a rag with brake clean. So I just use my finger to wipe them in there. There's a little bit of residue. And any residue on these heads is going to mess up your seal with your head gasket. So just go back over it one last time. We're also going to want to use the ARP lube on the heads of these, underneath the washer and underneath the head and the washer. It helps get a better torque reading when you torque them down. Alright guys, so I'm going to torque these heads down now, and you're going to want to do this in 3 separate stages for the small block at least. You don't really have to. I prefer to. 15, 45, and 60. And I actually just print these out. Usually I use my phone, but this is a lot easier. And you're going to follow the sequence. Probably shouldn't put tools in there in case they fall in, but first one's not going to be that much. 15 foot-pounds is not a lot. Alright guys, so I'm switching over to my 1/2 inch guy, and we're going to set it. This literally only goes to 50 pounds, so we're going to go with 50 pounds instead of 45 and crank it down until she clicks. Like I said, you want to be super accurate, because if you go over torque these, you can pull threads clean out of the block, which just is not good. So 65 foot-pounds. Alright guys, so I got one side all guide plated and torqued down with the studs. On this side, I have to drill these because none of these holes line up. Like, you can't put the bolts in these heads because the holes bind up, and the holes are supposed to be oversized so that you can actually wiggle these. So I have to re-drill all 4 of these just like I did those before I put them in. Alright guys, so just got the passenger side, guide plates torqued down. None of these are set like the lash, but I double checked on this one and these push rods length is okay for these. So now I'm going to clean up this intake and then we'll torque that on and we'll be done with that. Alright guys, so I'm getting ready to set the intake. I got all the gaskets on. I put a slight skim coat. I'll actually show you guys. A little skim coat on both sides of RTV around the water ports. It's suggested with these gaskets. I ditched, these gaskets actually do not come with the cork or neoprene end pieces. You have to use RTV, and I prefer RTV. It seals for sure. So we're ready to drop the intake on, which is always a little nerve-wracking because these gaskets do like to slip out of the way. Alright guys, so I did purchase these nice new 12-point ARP stainless steel bolts. These are like 20 something bucks, but they're not gonna rust and they're gonna look really, really good up here, which is, where else do you buy stainless steel? Mostly because it doesn't rust, but stainless also looks, you know, of course, fucking sick. I'll show you guys something here. So first we can see the squish from the RTV, which is good. This isn't even torqued down yet. We already got some squish, which means we sealed up. But if we look in this hole, of course we can't see, but basically the gasket just isn't centered. So you just use a screwdriver, push it over, and then your bolt should drop right in and catch the threads. But if that gasket's off, it won't catch the threads. All right guys, so we got another torque spec here to follow. And the main reason I like these bolts, because you can tell they're all straight down, way easier to get to, so we can actually torque these. And we're gonna follow this sequence. Alright guys, so as you can see, we got a pretty good seal there on our RTV. It's all squished out. The gaskets should be all sealed up, hopefully. We don't want any leaks, especially coolant, but intake as well. So we got a good bit of squish all around. The intake is properly torqued. Now we're just gonna, I always seal these up. So just take this guy, and word of advice, do not put the gasket on. I put the gasket on once and then did this, and it got stuck. And it was a bitch to get off, and it was for nothing because I didn't need it. So, all right, guys. So it's pretty much just a day of failure so far. These sweet T bolts are not really meant to be used with cast valve covers. I can still use this part, but I positively cannot use the stud size. That's the stud. That little Phillips head. It pretty much sits flush with this because this has a very thick flange because it's cast. So I'm gonna have to order new studs. Then I bought new bolts for the front cover. Down here I got nice stainless bolts for here, stainless bolts for the water pump like I said. And every one of them is too long. So this is the size that was there. I think it's like 2 inch. And I think this is 2.5. And what I need is 2.25 because the threads aren't very deep. Alright guys, so that's pretty much a wrap for this video. Everything that could be together is together. I got the whole front accessories, all I had to drill a hole here. And I actually just split this so that way the spacer is the plate. If we look at the belt alignment, we're going to need about a washer to bring this out. Just a little bit. I hooked up this here heater core. I did break this temperature sender that came with my Speed Hut stuff. Literally, I was tightening it up, no resistance. All of a sudden, it just snapped off. So that's a shame. We're gonna have to order a new one or see if they'll replace it. So I gotta plug that one up. I'm just trying to do it while it's on the stand. It's easier. Got my heater core hooked up, like I said. The valve covers, I did make my own studs out of all thread, but a couple of them were too long, and it's such a pain to pull and put them in. I'm just gonna order 2-inch stainless studs and throw them in. No corrosion issues. That'll be good. I still have to order a new alternator, but whatever. So pretty much we're ready to work on the engine bay and get it ready for this thing to go in. And my God, this thing just looks so gorgeous. You know, if you're putting a Chevy motor in a Ford, you gotta be loud and proud about it. So that's it, guys. Next time we're gonna be painting the engine bay and finishing up the car. And after that, we are gonna be reassembling the car with the motor in it and finally starting some wiring. So I'll see you guys then.